Welcome to the Mystic Messenger podcast. This is your host, the Mystic. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about the lie of detachment and how false teachings are numbing the soul. So I want to speak to the souls who are exhausted from pretending they're okay, the ones who say, "I'm fine," and smile through their spiritual teeth while their chest is caving inward and their throat is burning with words they're too afraid to say. You've been taught that being spiritual means being silent, that peace means not reacting, that love means letting everything slide, that if you're truly awakened, you'll never get angry again. You'll never cry again. You'll never get triggered again. But what if I told you your trigger is your compass, your tears are your truth, and your anger, it's your soul trying to speak through the suppression? Because here's the raw truth. Detachment without integration becomes dissociation. When you detach before you fully feel, you're not healing. You're escaping. Let's go back to what detachment was supposed to mean. In its ancient roots, it's not about apathy. It was never about becoming a ghost of yourself in the name of enlightenment. Detachment meant I am anchored in my soul's truth so deeply that I don't need to control the outcome. It meant I can stay devoted without being desperate. I can love without losing myself. But the modern spiritual movement, especially the New Age, hijacks that meaning. Now detachment has become a blanket recommendation for everything. They left you, detach. You're hurting, detach. They lied to you, used you, mirrored your trauma back to you, just let it go and love them anyway. And here's the poison hidden inside that perception. You start to believe that speaking your truth is low vibration, that feeling pain is a sign you're not ascended enough and that you're weak, that setting boundaries is your ego speaking, that saying this hurt me makes you unevolved. So what do? You detach. Not from the wound, but from yourself. Let me say something I wish more spiritual teachers had the courage to say. Numb is not neutral. Numb is not peace. Numb is a red flag waving from your nervous system saying, hey, something's wrong here. But the spiritual community praises numbness like it's wisdom. I don't care anymore. I'm unbothered by things. I'm over it. But behind closed doors, you're watching their stories. You're rereading old messages. You're overthinking your silence. You're crying in the car while chanting affirmations that don't even feel real anymore. And all the while, you're gaslighting yourself. Because you're thinking, why am I still hurting? Why can't I let go? Why can't I be like them and just detach? Because you're not supposed to detach from your soul. You're supposed to listen to it. Let's look a little deeper. What most people call detachment is actually a wound response. It's emotional withdrawal after abandonment. It's energetic freezing after betrayal. It's mental numbing after being chronically misunderstood. You learn early. If I need less, I won't get hurt. If I say less, I'll be safer. If I stop expecting love, I won't feel the loss. So when you arrive at the spiritual path and someone tells you detachment is spiritual, it validates your trauma. It makes you shut down and look enlightened. But here's what true soul work demands. You must feel before you can release. You must speak before you can surrender. You must reclaim before you can let go. And most of all, you must be willing to stay with your heart, even when it's breaking. Because your heart knows something your mind can't comprehend. The truth never abandons itself to protect someone else's comfort. Let me flip the script completely now. Because here's what they don't want you to remember. Attachment is not the enemy. Unconscious attachment is. You are meant to be attracted and attached to your truth, to your path, to your soul agreements, to your boundaries, and to the people your spirit knows are part of your sacred journey. Sacred attachment is devotion. It's not desperation. It's not fear. It's the holy energy of, I choose this with awareness. The divine doesn't detach from you. It merges with you. It breathes through you. And so it's time to stop calling emotional withdrawal spiritual wisdom and start calling it what it is, a bypass of your soul's guidance. So what do we do instead, you may ask? When pain arises, when the loop begins, when the urge to emotionally shut down comes in and the mind says detach, you choose conscious anchoring over detachment. You ask yourself, what truth wants to be spoken right now? What part of me is trying to go numb? Am I pulling away from the situation or from myself? Then, you can journal your real feelings. Speak one sentence aloud that breaks the spiritual mask. Write one soul vow of sacred attachment to your path, to your integrity, to your heart. An example. I release the idea that letting go means disappearing. I am allowed to love, feel, and still set fire to things that no longer honor my spirit. Because here's the truth. Real healing is not sterile. It's messy, it's raw, it's alive, and it's dark. And detachment, when misused, will numb you into spiritual silence. Your soul, it came here to roar. So the next time someone tells you to detach, ask yourself, is this wisdom or is this a wall? Because you're not here to float through life disconnected. You are here to embody it all, to feel the depth of being human and still stay loyal to your soul. Detach from illusion, detach from fantasy, detach from what drains your light. But do not detach from your feeling, your knowing, and your voice. That's where your power lives. That's where your remembrance begins. And that's where the programming ends. Welcome back to your heart. So, there's a reason you keep thinking about them. There's a reason your chest tightens every time their name comes up. There's a reason you can't move forward, even when your mind is screaming that you should. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're broken. It's because your energy is attached. And that attachment is not love. It's not spiritual devotion. It's a contract of the mind written in language of trauma. So, let's begin with a soul definition of attachment. Attachment is not just wanting someone. It's not just craving a result or missing a person. Attachment is an energetic tether between your consciousness and a version of reality that you're still emotionally invested in, even if it is no longer aligned. Attachment is when a part of your identity is still dependent on the outcome, a person, a role, or belief staying the same. And here's what most people don't realize. You don't need to be in contact with someone to be energetically attached to them. You don't need to be with them physically to be entangled with them spiritually. Your mind can still be a contract that your body left years ago. Your soul can still be looping through memories, questions, regrets, or fantasies. And that loop, that's the prison. Let's break it down a little further. There are emotional contracts we enter into unconsciously, usually during trauma, deep longing, or spiritual projection. These contracts sound like, you're the only one who's ever seen me. You're the one who completes me. I'll wait for you no matter how long it takes. I forgive everything because this connection is different. This pain is proof that this is real. And the most common one? If I just hold on long enough, they'll finally choose me. These silent psychic contracts become agreements with suffering. We bind our timeline to theirs. We tie our healing to their return. We attach our worth to their awakening. Even if they've blocked you, even if they've chosen someone else, even if they've shown no evidence of growth, you remain in the loop because your heart remembers what it felt like, even if that version of them was just a glimpse, a mask, or a mirror. Here's a hard truth. Most attachment is not to who they are, but to what you imagined they could be. You're not holding on to them. You're holding on to the version of them that showed up before the wound happened. The version you saw in the first few moments, before the betrayal, the silence, and the withdrawal happened, you're attached to that timeline of potential. And here's what that does to your vibration. It keeps you bound to the not quite, the almost, and the someday. It makes your nervous system addicted to hope, fantasy, and meaning making. You overanalyze signs. You romanticize breadcrumbs. You decode songs, posts, and synchronicities, hoping it means something real. But the soul doesn't deal in fantasy. The soul deals in alignment. And if it's not here now and not meeting you in truth, it's not alignment. It's addiction. Trust me. I know. I've been through this. Let's get metaphysical. Every time you attach to someone who isn't present, every time you obsess over why it ended, every time you wait for them to choose you, you leak soul energy into a version of reality that has already collapsed. That's what looping is. It's time binding. You are unconsciously feeding a dead timeline with your life force, hoping it resurrects. Meanwhile, your future self is calling and you can't hear it. You're too busy having conversations in your head with someone who hasn't spoken to you in months. You're too invested in being chosen by a person who can't even choose themselves. And let me be honest, this kind of attachment doesn't just delay healing, it alters your path. Because if you stay long enough in the loop, you'll start building your identity around the wound. Let's go a little deeper. Why do so many of us hold on, even when we know it's over? Because we're not just attached to them, we're attached to who we were with them. That version of you who felt alive, who felt loved, seen, or special, even if only for a moment. To let go of them means letting go of that version of yourself, and that's terrifying. Because deep down, you're afraid, what if I never feel that again? What if that was my only shot? What if they're my one? That's not soul knowing. That's trauma hijacking your hope. And if we don't unravel that, you'll keep shrinking yourself into the person who fit into their version of love, not your truth. So now, you probably ask, how do I release attachment without becoming cold, bitter, or numb? This is a tough one. You don't need to sever the soul cord. You need to close the energetic contract. And here's how. Speak the unspoken truth. Journal what was never said. Say everything your heart still holds, the pain, the love, the rage, the confusion. Bring it into form. That's how you reclaim it, even if they never get the message. Rewrite the agreement. I release the contract that my worth is tied to their return. I revoke the belief that I have to wait to be fully loved. I now choose timelines that choose me in truth. Reclaim your identity. Ask yourself, who was I becoming while attached to this? And then, who am I free to become now that I am unattached? Create a new energetic imprint by anchoring into your desired future, not your emotional past. So, if you've been stuck in a loop, if you felt like your soul is screaming for freedom, if you're exhausted from holding on to a version of love that lives only in your memory, this is your call to release it. You are not meant to be tethered to anyone who requires your suffering as proof of love. That is not love. Let that version of the story collapse. Let that identity dissolve. Let that fantasy float away and watch who you become when you stop chasing ghosts. You are not hard to love. You are hard to control. There's a difference. And the moment you realize the attachment, the loop breaks, the timelines shift, your soul returns, and you welcome back your power. We've been told that the mind is the enemy, that it's the barrier to peace, the source of suffering, the reason we can't be free. We've been told to silence it, to escape it, to transcend it. But what if I told you, it's not your mind that is the problem, it's the programming inside of it. In this episode, we're not going to shame the mind. We're going to reclaim it. We're going to decode why your mind gets hijacked, why spiritual practices sometimes make you feel more lost, and how to turn your mind back into a sacred tool it was always meant to be. So, the mind, once again, is not your enemy. The mind is your interface. It's the bridge between your spirit and your reality. It's the translator between divine knowing and human decision. It's how the unseen becomes visible. But here's what's happened. The world taught you to fear your own mind, to distrust your thoughts, to question your inner voice. And in that confusion, a door opened. A space where external programming could be installed. Think about it. From the moment you were born, your mind has been absorbing social conditioning, cultural narratives, religious guilt, school indoctrination, parental shame, fear-based media, love and light false spirituality. And all of it shaped how you think. That's not your mind working against you. That's your mind running someone else's code. Let's call it what it is. It's thought hijacking. You think it's your voice saying, "I'm not enough," but it's your mother's projection, your ex's insult, or your first heartbreak. You think you're afraid of taking a leap, but you're actually carrying the vibration of your ancestors' survival fear. You think you're outthinking something or overthinking something, but you're actually running on subconscious loop trying to protect yourself from abandonment. Your mind is not sabotaging you. It's trying to protect you based on outdated maps. But you're not that child anymore. You're not the person you were when that wound happened. So why is your mind still operating from that script? And the truth is, because you haven't rewritten it yet. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Some spiritual teachings actually make the mind trap worse, and you don't even realize it. Because they tell you, your mind is the ego. Just silence the thoughts. Thinking is low vibration. You're in your head too much. And yes, excessive mental chatter can be draining. But suppressing thought doesn't bring you closer to soul. It just pushes your pain deeper into the shadow. In fact, the more you try to quiet your mind without understanding it first, the louder your subconscious gets. You meditate for 20 minutes and then spend 3 hours obsessing about your past. You chant affirmations but still spiral in fear the moment something triggers you. That's not spiritual failure. That's unprocessed programming trying to find resolution. You need to find a solution. And it won't stop until you listen. Let's break down how the looping actually works. A trigger happens. You see a post, hear a song, or get reminded of someone. Your mind activates a neural pathway. This is like a groove in your brain formed by repetition. It could be abandonment, rejection, guilt, or insecurity. The loop begins. You start imagining scenarios, replaying conversations, creating explanations. The emotion intensifies. You start to believe the thought. You feel it in your chest. It becomes real. The illusion gets stronger. You make decisions based on fear, not alignment. You send the message. You self-sabotage. You isolate. This is the mind trap. Not because the mind is wrong, but because of the programming. Its running is old, fear-based, and distorted. Your mind is trying to help you, but it's still playing the operating system you never gave permission for. So how do we shift it? You don't kill the mind. You don't have a full ego death. You clear it. You rewrite your story. You teach it who you are now, not who you were. Think of the mind as a sacred technology. In its purest state, your mind is a receiver of divine ideas, a decoder of soul information, a builder of new timelines, and a co-creator with the universe. But it needs your leadership. It needs your direction. It needs your soul to be the voice it follows. Let me be clear. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer, the decoder, and the chooser of thoughts. And once you remember that, the game changes. So, here's a soul practice you can start using to rewire the mind and dissolve the mental loops. Be aware. Awareness is key. Every time a thought pulls you down, pause and ask, where did this belief come from? Is this my truth or my trauma? Bring it into the light. Expose it. Give it a name. Now you're going to interpret. Do something to break the pattern. Speak the opposite aloud. If you've been always doing the same thing and it's not working, try to do the opposite. Clap, move your body, shake the energy off, get active. Change your location or state. Interruptions weaken the loop. Now you're going to reprogram. Install a new thought with that emotion. That's the key. Not empty affirmations, but emotionally anchored truths. Instead of "I'm fine," say "I'm safe to release this story and choose something truer." Instead of saying "I'm not enough," say "I am remembering who I was before this lie was planted." Repeat, breathe, speak it until your cells believe it. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your initiation. And every time you get lost in a loop, you're being shown a doorway into your own soul's liberation. You don't have to fear your thoughts. You don't have to escape your mind. You only have to reclaim your role as the programmer. Because when your soul sits on the throne of your mind, you no longer spiral in old stories. You build new timelines. You hear true voice again. The silence you were chasing in meditation, it begins the moment you stop fighting your mind and start leading it. You're not too in your head. You've just forgotten that your head is holy. So let's remember. This one might hurt, but it's the kind of hurt that heals. Because we're going to expose what most people in the spiritual community aren't ready to admit. That the very teachings meant to free us are now programming us to stay silent. You've been told to just love and light it away, to forgive instantly, to never speak out, to stay high vibe no matter what's happening. But underneath all that pretty packaging is a lie. It's a program, a false light matrix that's training spiritual beings to abandon themselves. So let's talk about this more. False light is a spiritual information that looks loving but keeps you disempowered. It's the positive vibes only culture that tells you you're wrong for having a breakdown. It's the message that says everything is a mirror, even when someone is abusing you. It's the belief that if you're triggered, you're the problem. It sounds spiritual, but it really silences the truth. And here's why it works so well. Because people who are awakening are vulnerable. They're raw. They're searching for peace, for answers, for healing, and for help. And in that open space, the wrong beliefs get planted because of alignment. Beliefs like pain is low vibration. If you speak out, you're not spiritual. If you feel grief or anger, you're in your ego. Those are not teachings of liberation. They are tools of control. And most people spreading them don't even know they're doing it. It's unconscious to them. They think they're helping. So let's be real. Most of us didn't grow up understanding boundaries, energy, or emotional truth. So when we found the spiritual path, we dove headfirst. I know I did. Crystals, meditations, oracle cards, forgiveness, ascension, affirmations. But nobody warned us about the event in the spiritual world. That there would be traps. Because we're all being tested. Because the New Age movement, it's not all pure. It was strategically diluted and monetized, a soft weapon designed to mute the divine feminine voice, separate souls from their power, prevent people from addressing real trauma, keep spiritual communities docile, passive, and marketable. You were taught to forgive too fast, meditate away your anger, over-explain your triggers, over-compromise your boundaries, and wait for signs instead of trusting your gut. That's not soul guidance. That's spiritualized self-betrayal. Let's get a little more specific. Here are 5 signs that I noticed when I was operating from the New Age programming, even when I didn't mean to be. I felt guilt for being angry. I suppressed real emotion in the name of staying high vibe. But my body felt tight, disconnected, and fake. I thought every toxic person was my mirror. that I just misinterpreted my believing and manifested it to grow. It was my next step. It was my next phase. And yes, people can reflect unhealed patterns, but that doesn't mean every betrayal is your fault. Discernment is spiritual. I overforgave and underprotected myself. I forgave before I felt processed or integrated. I felt confusion around unconditional love and with energetic self-abandonment. I feared the confrontation. I believe that speaking my truth was ego because it came out harsher than I wanted it to. I rather suffered quietly than be perceived as low vibe. I replaced healings with positive affirmations. I bypassed my deep wounds at times with surface level mantras. But the pain I felt kept resurfacing louder every time until it screamed in my face. And one day, I realized what I was doing. And I went to the next level of my evolution. So let's talk about why you stayed in these patterns. Because on the surface, false light feels safe. It offers easy answers, pretty quotes, no confrontation, no responsibility. Seems a little easy. And for people with trauma, rejection wounds, or abandonment issues, it's addictive because it's different. You get to feel spiritual without having to set boundaries, face your rage, walk away from karmic people, own your identity and divinity, and make hard decisions. But here's what you trade in that deal: your power, your voice, your sacred fire. You become a passive light worker instead of a sovereign soul remembering her divine fire. Why is this programming so common? Because it keeps people easy to control, emotionally repressed, spiritually sedated, and willing to accept whatever happens as divine will. It disconnects you from soul anger, which is meant to ignite change, discernment, which is meant to protect your energy, and truth, which is meant to liberate your timeline. And most of all, it cuts you off from divine confrontation. Because confrontation isn't chaos, it's clarity. Confrontation is how spirit purges deception, reveals truth, and activates evolution. So when someone tells you, don't rock the boat, just send them love, you need to ask, whose boat am I protecting? And why do I keep setting myself on fire for someone else's peace? Trust me, I did that for 4 years. And finally, I was done protecting that person, and I spoke my truth. And so will you. So now what? How do you break free from false light? How do you deprogram your soul? You return to raw truth. You give yourself permission to feel without apologizing, speak without shame, set boundaries without guilt, love without enabling, and walk away without justifying anything. Because real light doesn't suppress truth, it shines through it. Let's start by deconstructing the term high vibration, because it's becoming spiritual currency. Something to flex, something to maintain at all costs. Stay high vibe, don't let their energy bring you down. Only surrender yourself with positivity. Sounds great on paper, but here's the truth in real life. A vibration is not a mood. It's not a fake smile. It's not a caption. It's the frequency of your full presence. And you can't fake that. You can say all the affirmations, burn all the sage, post all the quotes, but if you're not being honest with your body, your emotions, and your patterns, your vibration does not rise. It contracts. Because your vibration is not about pretending you're okay. It's about whether or not you're living in your truth. Let's name what actually lowers your vibration. Pretending you've healed when you're still hurting. Smiling when you're grieving. Repeating mantras you don't believe. Staying with people who drain you while calling it unconditional love. Forcing forgiveness because a spiritual teacher told you to. Playing cool when your soul wants to scream the truth. These are all things that I had to come to terms with. These are the real leaks. Not your shadow, not your sadness, but your rejection of those things in the name of spirituality. Let me say this very clearly. Emotional suppression equals spiritual regression. If you keep pushing your feelings down to stay high vibe, you're not ascending, you're disconnecting. Here's how your body tells the truth even when your words don't. Your throat tightens, your stomach knots, your energy crashes after being around someone. Your breath shortens, you can't rest, you can feel, you can't cry. You scroll endlessly, disassociate and avoid. That's not laziness, it's not depression. That's your nervous system signaling, I'm out of alignment. You're living in a story that's not yours. You're not speaking what your soul knows. Wake up. We've normalized spiritual disembodiment where you live in your head, your third eye, your affirmations. But your body is exhausted from holding all the feelings you're refusing to process. This is where vibration tanks. When we spiritually abandon the body in the name of fake peace. One of the most dangerous vibrational traps and fantasies maybe sound like this. They'll come back when they're ready. Everything is working out perfectly in divine timing. It's all happening for a reason. The universe has a plan for you. Now let me be very, very clear. These statements can be sacred truths when felt through the body and lived through alignment and truth. But most people are using them to avoid pain. They say these things instead of facing grief, instead of having the hard conversations, instead of setting the boundary, instead of leaving the job, the friendship, or the karmic tie. And that spiritual bypass, that loop of illusion, it freezes your evolution and drops your vibration. Because fantasy is not faith, hope is not healing, and peace is not passivity. Let's talk about one of the most subtle but deadly energetic leaks. Self-silencing, and I've done this. I'm a Virgo. I'm a hermit. So when I'm going through stuff, I retreat. I go silent. How many times have you bit your tongue to keep your peace? Lied and said, I'm okay, just to appear strong. Shrunk your voice to keep someone else comfortable. Posted something inspiring when you were falling apart behind the scenes, dealing with your own chaos. That's vibrational sabotage. Because your soul is here to be expressed, and when you mute yourself, you split from your power. Every time you silence your truth, you signal to your energy field, my voice isn't safe, my feelings aren't welcome, and my needs don't matter. And the result? You dim, you disconnect, and you feel like a ghost in your own timeline. Now, let's reclaim this. Let's redefine raising your vibration to mean returning to your raw honesty. So here's how you can do that. Some of the things that I did. Feel first. Give yourself 10 minutes a day to feel without judgment. Rage, cry, shake, grieve. Let it move through the body. Let it go. But you have to feel it in order to release it. Speak the uncomfortable truth. Say the thing you've been hiding, even if it's messy, even if it breaks an illusion. Your voice is a frequency, use it. You don't have to tell somebody else. Speak it aloud to yourself. Talk to yourself. Break the fantasy loop. Ask yourself, what am I hoping for that's keeping me from acting now? Then anchor back into the present. Clean your energy by clearing your timeline. Cut cords, not because you're angry, but because you're ready to be sovereign. Burn old journals, delete messages, unfollow energetically misaligned pages, and clear the echo. Choose devotion over perfection. Your vibration rises when the intention aligns with your integrity. Not when you're perfect, but when you're true. You've been told to think positively, to rewrite your thoughts, to affirm your truth into existence. But here's what you weren't told. You can't reprogram a lie. You can't heal a wound with a mantra that bypasses the pain. You can't skip straight to the love and light when your nervous system is screaming for truth. You've been taught to reprogram your mind for comfort, but not alignment. And now we are going to discuss and go deeper how the mind can be rewired, not to escape pain, but to reveal your soul's truth. Let's start with the hard truth. Most people who say they're reprogramming their mind are actually bypassing their emotional body. They're reciting mantras they don't believe. They're repeating scripts they read online. They're trying to manifest from the mind while the heart is still holding grief, rage, and confusion. Here's why that doesn't work. Because your subconscious doesn't speak in words, it speaks in emotions, in sensation, in what you believe underneath the surface. So if you say, I am worthy, but your body is tense, your throat is tight, and your nervous system is bracing, your subconscious records the conflict, not the words. If you say, I am safe, but you're stuck in survival loops, abandoning your truth, or clinging to toxic relationships, you're not reprogramming, you're repeating, you're looping into a new outfit. So let's go a little deeper. There's a difference between programming and patterning. Programming is what was installed by childhood, society, religion, media, trauma. It's the code. Patterning is how you've responded to it over time. It's the loop, it's the cycles. So what's happened? You get stuck in abandonment cycles, self-sabotage, attachment to emotionally unavailable people, fear of being seen, chronic overgiving, or healing loops that never end. And you try to fix it by saying the opposite. I am chosen, I am abundant, I am love. But the loop doesn't break because the program is still running beneath the surface. And here's why. You didn't feel your way through the old code. You just tried to override it with spiritual poetry. That's like trying to clean a wound by painting over it. Underneath, the wound is still dirty. So what's the alternative? How do we really reprogram the mind in a way that sticks, heals, and liberates? We don't start with the words. We start with the emotion that holds the original code. Let's walk through the soul truth rewiring process step by step. And this may be able to help a lot of you. Every pattern has a story. So, you need to start with, what do I keep thinking when I'm triggered? What's the core fear underneath this? What belief comes up every time I feel abandoned, rejected, or unseen? You've got to go deep to the main core reason. Examples. I must not be enough. Love leaves me. If I speak truth, I'll be rejected. I'm always too much. This is the root program. Don't bypass this. Once you name the belief, feel what it does to your body. Where do you hold it? Ask yourself. Is it your throat? Is it your chest? Is it your stomach? Do you feel tension, burning, or sadness? What is the feeling that you're feeling now? Hold the sensation with compassion. Let yourself grieve the moment that belief first imprinted itself. Feel it all. This step is non-negotiable. It's an emotional, it's the portal to transformation. Here's where we begin to shift the mind. Speak this aloud. This belief is not mine. It was installed by who or whatever it is in your own world. I see it. I honor what it tried to protect, but I no longer live in that reality. I choose something new. Release it. This is your reclaiming moment. It separates you from the belief instead of making it your identity. Now you're ready to plant the new code. But don't do it intellectually. Do it embodied. Do it emotionally charged. So ask, what truth does my soul already know beneath the wound? Examples. I am not too much. I am exact. I do not beg to be chosen. I am the choice. I speak and my vibration becomes law. I am the rewrite of every wound that ever silenced me. Say it until your body feels it. Say it until your throat softens. Say it until your nervous system believes you again. And if you haven't heard by now, I think my throat for the past 10-15 minutes has been tightening because the truth is coming out. And my throat is trying to clear so I can speak truth. So, now we're going to anchor it with action. Words don't rewire reality alone. Actions finish the circuit. Say the truth and then act like it's already true. Speak the boundary. Walk away. Publish the post. Ask for more. Cancel the contract and stop explaining yourself. Your behavior tells your mind, we're not going back. We're going forward. Let me pause here and speak to the part of you that's tired, that has tried this before, that says, I've done the inner work. Why am I still looping? Because I've said this. You're not broken. You're just trying to ascend while still honoring your emotional humanity. It's not supposed to be fast. It's not supposed to be linear. and it's not supposed to be clean. Healing doesn't mean the loop never shows up again. Trust me, it does. It means when it does, you don't obey it anymore. You hold the power. You see it, you breathe it through, and you choose truth. That's spiritual mastery. You don't need to escape your thoughts. You don't need to kill your mind. You don't need to meditate yourself into numbness just to survive your inner world. You just need to take the pen back. You just need to stop repeating someone else's story. You just need to say, no more. And when you do, your mind doesn't become quieter. It becomes clearer, more loyal, more alive. Because now, you're the one driving. And this time, it's toward truth, not comfort. This is the final breath of the loop, the last echo of the pattern, the moment you stop being a prisoner of your programming, and remember, you were always the architect. Your soul was never weak. You just forgot who was driving the ship. The loop doesn't end when the other person apologizes. Please understand that. It doesn't end when the past changes. It doesn't even end when you heal all your inner child wounds perfectly. The loop ends when you stop obeying it, when you stop feeding the fantasy, when you stop repeating the thought, when you stop bending your truth to just avoid being abandoned, when you finally say, I am no longer available for stories that require me to abandon my soul. The mind will still try. Trust me. We are always tested. It will still whisper. It will still replay memories and tempt you back into survival. But the sovereign version of you, she doesn't argue with the thought. She doesn't fight the loop. She just refuses to return. Let me tell you what it feels like to reclaim your mental field. And I'm going to be honest. It's not a constant high. It's not a perfect peace. It's clarity. It's the ability to feel fear and still act from truth. It's the strength to say no without over-explaining yourself. It's the freedom of no longer performing for someone else's perception. It's waking up and saying, what I think is mine now. What I believe is my choice now. What I repeat rewrites timelines now. That's soul-level mastery. Not because you've transcended the human experience, but because you've now embodied within it. Here's what no one probably told you. Your soul has always been speaking. You just couldn't hear it over the reprogramming and the chaos. The soul doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It doesn't loop. It speaks through clarity, through stillness, through that undeniable feeling that says, this is real, this is me, this is sacred. The more you listen, the louder it gets. And the more you obey it, the faster your reality shifts. You don't need to channel beings in the stars to hear divinity. You are the channel, and your soul is the voice. The question is, are you quiet enough to hear it? Let's talk responsibility, because now that you've broken the loops, you're not just free, you're accountable. No more outsourcing your intuition to tarot readers who confirm your fantasy. No more blaming others for your silence, and no more waiting for permission to live your soul's mission. You are the leader now, and the leadership means feeling the urge to loop and choosing not to. Noticing a trigger and alchemizing it into awareness. Hearing an old story and immediately replacing it with your soul truth. Your thoughts become spells, your silence becomes wisdom, and your presence becomes magnetic. This is what happens when the mind is ruled by the soul. So this isn't the end of the series. This is the beginning of your leadership. The next time the thoughts rise, you'll remember you are not them. The next time the loop starts, you'll smile and say, not this time. The next time you hear your soul speak, you'll know the difference. You don't need to escape your mind anymore. You've returned to it as a queen, as a channel, as a creator of new timelines. And this time, you don't forget.